Welcome to JMR Talks. Today we will discuss about a research scholar, namely Sharat Patel, who is reversing the social system by bringing the what are called beggars on the what are called streets, men and women, into the mainstream of earning a living for themselves. Here is a guy who is what are called enabling the beggars on the streets to lead a dignified living by making them to what are called stand on their what are called own legs. Now, who is this what called Sharat Patel and how he got what called inspiration to do something for these what called beggars? In 2003, he reached what called Lucknow railway station. So when he came out of the railway station, he found that what called beggars in and around, and what called they're begging for what called food and all that, and he also observed that they do take what called intoxicants and all that. At the same time, he happened to what call see the langa, wherein he could what call see the value of what call sharing, equality, and kindness without any kind of what call differences or some kind of that. Another incident which what call impressed him a lot to do something for these beggars is that in 2013 one person what call one beggar approached him, said it 10 rupees de do, khana khana hai. So instead of giving him what call 10 rupees, he took him to a restaurant, what call arrange food for him. But then when he reflected on that, he said feeding once an individual will not serve the purpose. Maybe he need to what call create something whereby these persons who are what call seeking alms on the streets, running around, they have gainful employment, whereby they can what call stand on their own legs. Now that's how Badlav, meaning a shift, change for the better, what called took a shape, and his Bhiksha Vrati Mukti Abhiyan, what called started on 2nd October 2014. It was Sharat Patel along with his friends what called Jaideep Kumar Rawat and Mahendra Pratap what called who started what called this initiative. So after repeated what called efforts, Lucknow municipality ultimately gave them a shelter home in 2018. So where this Patel and his team, they would call provide beds, mattresses, food for free and all that. And not only that, they prepare the what I call these beggars to eke out a living on their what I call own. Now, is it a what I call a serious issue to be tackled by a social entrepreneur like what I call Sharat Patel? Yes. As per the 2011 census, there are about 4,13,670 beggars in India. Out of this, 2,21,673 are males and 1,91,997 are females. Further, over 45,000 are what are called child beggars, and 70,500 are differently abled what are called beggars. Among the states of India, West Bengal leads with what are called 81,224 beggars as such. Many of us might have what are called observed what are called at the traffic junctions and all that, people seeking alms, to take out a living and all that. Now, what is this Badlav is all about? At Badlav, they offer medical help, they do counseling, and most importantly, they what are called ensure skill development. So, with their help, people who used to, beg, for their living, now they are starting what are called micro business enterprises, and they are what are called standing their own and living what are called dignity in the what are called society. Now let us briefly look at the organization called what are called NGO called Badlav. What is their aim, vision, mission, etc. So Badlav was registered on 15th September 2015 as part of the Society Registration Act. Now what is the aim of the Badlav? Badlav aims at uplifting the beggars and enabling them to lead a life of what are called dignity. They are moving from a pathetic living to a living with what are called dignity. What is their vision? Vision is to what are called empower what are called these people by ensuring inclusive growth, accessibility what are called to services, and building a network of what are called stakeholders. There was a time when the purpose of business was making a profit. From profit, we moved to what are called triple bottom line: people, profit, planet. But now people are talking about multiple stakeholders. So while companies have what called corporate social responsibility, we individuals have what is called what called individual social responsibility. Probably this individual social responsibility of Sharad Patel and what called his team what called made them to what called set up this great initiative called what called Badlav. Now what is the mission of Badlav? To ensure a dignified way of living. Instead of what I call depending on others for their living, standing on their own legs and leading a dignified life. And this model is not that complicated. It's a scalable and replicable model. Now let us look at the what I call core principles of Badlav, which makes it what I call a unique initiative worth replicating in the rest of the country as such. Number one, acceptance. No prejudice, irrespective of the caste, creed, religion, they accept everyone. Transparency about their policies, producers, the kind of help they receive from NGOs and others. Third, empathy. Empathy towards the what called pain of the people undergoing. Confidentiality. They will not what called divulge the what call the details of the what called people. Accountability. Yes, they are accountable to the people who are financing them. Dignity. In the process, they ensure dignity of the what called individual. Now, thanks to the what called help of Badlav, now the beggars who used to what call beg for their alms, now they have their own tea stalls, street food stalls, selling toys. In other words, thanks to the what called help of the Badlav, now the former beggars are earning rupees 10 to 18,000 per month. The most important thing is that earlier what I call pathetic life of depending on what I call others, now they are what I call leading a life of dignity without depending on what I call others. So far, Sharad and his team of 8, they provided livelihood what I call nearly about 300 400 people or so, and still they are continuing their efforts. Now let's look at what I call 3 people who received help from the Badlav, which changed their life from pathetic to what I call leading a life of what I call dignity. Rajesh Runde, he came to Lucknow in what I call seeking employment, and he started what I call pulling the rickshaw and all that. Suddenly, what happened is he met with an accident, so he was not able to work as such. Okay, and he was fallen sick, and he was desperately looking for what I call help. At that time, that is in November 2019, Badlav rescued him from the footpath, provided him what I call the necessary treatment, and now Rajesh owns a rickshaw and leads a what I call dignified life. The second comes Manoj. Right from the age of 10, he was on a footpath. For his living, he used to what I call pull the rickshaw, and he also got addicted to what I call intoxicants and all that. Okay, in 2016, he became very sick. He was not able to work or what I call earn anything, so he started what I call begging. Now, thanks to the Badlav, his what I call tuberculosis, what I call disease got treatment, and today he earns about 5 to 600 rupees per month by running a what I call a chart chart this thing cart, as you can see in the diagram. Then we look at what I call Mayabi. Mayabi had what I call 2 children. Her husband, what I call he got addicted to what I call drinks, frequently used to what I call beat his children and herself and all that. So unable to what I call bear the pain, what I call harassment of her husband, and also to provide what I call very good education to her children, she came to what I call Lucknow. Today, thanks to the what I call help from the Badlav, she has sells spices, pure water, mask, and thereby earning 500 rupees per day, which enables her to take care of her children's education. Now, after listening to what I call these stories, one question that might arise in our minds is that what about funding? Yes, to begin with, Sharad Patel and his what I call friends, they use their pocket money, to finance these activities. But subsequently, they got help from crowdfunding, NGOs, donations, and donations come what I call in different forms. Somebody gives money, somebody gives clothes, somebody gives provisions, and all that. Now, another thing is that in addition to providing this livelihood, that is rescuing the people, from rescuing the what I call beggars from the what I call streets, and what I call providing what I call skills and enable them to eke out a livelihood. Is there any other thing Badlav does it? Yes, They provided what I call, they helped in what I call, procuring identification documents are for about 1300 beggars. Now somebody may ask, so what is so great about it? Now once these beggars have identification documents, they will be what I call eligible, or they will be entitled, they will be enabled for getting what I call some assistance under government schemes. Sharad Patel and his team, they've also started called a Khichdi Dhaba. Now what is this dhaba? Inspired with the concept of langar, he every day their team feeds about 400 what I call beggars or people who are living in the footpaths and all that. Impressed by this guy's work, I mean not only Sharad Patel and his team, I am very happy that Times of India carried a detailed article yesterday, because this sort of things what I call inspire others. We keep talking about corporate social responsibility, but here a case of individual social responsibility. Sharad Patel, having what I call seen the plight of beggars outside the railway station, and what I call the kind of treatment meted out at the langar and all that, he started this Badlav, change for the what I call better, enabling the people to lead a life of what I call dignity from a living of what I call pathetic, depending on what I call others and so also. And the beauty of what I call this model is that it can be replicated without much what I call cost as that, because there is a saying I mean Abdul Kalam Saab used to say that when your intention is genuine, nature connives to make it happen. And that's what we have seen in the what I call Sharad Patel. Though Sharad, along with his friends started this, he started getting help from crowdfunding, NGOs, etc., etc. So the beauty of what I call this model is that you are providing a dignified life to what I call beggars. And what I understand, that he is also planning to come with a similar intervention for the what I call children who beg on the what I call streets and all that. This what I call beggars menace is prevalent what I call throughout the country. Ours is a developing country. Once what I call we enable the what I call these, I mean what I call disparate people who are marginalized what I call sections, helpless people, to come to the what I call mainstream of the society, enabling them to what I call earn something on their own and lead a dignified life. Definitely the day is not far when our country definitely becomes what I call a developed country as such. We can't afford to what I call waste the human resources, what I call talent or capability. We must what I call provide an enabling mechanism whereby they what I call continue to what I call contribute to the gross domestic product of the country as such. So hope this what I call effort of Sharad Patel and his team, that is Badlav, what I call inspires what I call some other people. For me, Sharad Patel is a social entrepreneur. Here is a guy who is trying to what I call solve a problem. He is trying to reverse what I call social system, whereby the beggars, the men and women on the streets, are being brought into the mainstream and enabling them to what I call eke out a decent living. God bless him. Thank you.